Good afternoon, all. I am pleased to open today's LatinX Heritage Month leadership discussion. My name is Yamile Cedillo Cruz. I am a proud John Jay alumna and a former participant of the CUNY BMI Rising Scholars of Justice program. I am currently a 1L at the Western New England Law School. My experiences as a former judicial intern gave me the base I needed to get to law school. I created lifelong mentors like Dr. Jodie, Rourie, and Honorable Judge Llinét Rosado, who we will hear from today. They remind me every day that despite my barriers, I can one day be where they are today. As a proud Hispanic serving institution with 44% of our student body hailing from Hispanic backgrounds, John Jay celebrates Hispanic heritage daily. But we will take this month to especially celebrate the history, culture, leaders, and achievements of our Hispanic community. I am delighted and honored to introduce our keynote speaker, the Honorable Llinét Rosado. Justice Rosado obtained her Juris Doctor from Albany Law School, after which she began her career at the Criminal Defense Division of the Legal Aid Society as a staff attorney. She subsequently worked with the Children's Law Center representing children in family and matrimonial actions. Justice Rosado began her judicial career as a judge for the Civil Court in Bronx County in 2013 and was designated Acting Supreme Court Justice in 2016. She presided over matrimonial cases, personal injury actions, and mental health proceedings. Fast forward, in July 2023, New York State Governor Kathy Hochul appointed Justice Rosado to serve in the Appellate Division of the New York Supreme Court. Justice Rosado, a lifelong community servant, continues to serve her community by speaking to local schools regarding the law, as well as participating in programs and panels focused on enlightening the community. She accepts interns from high school, colleges, and law schools. In 2017, Youth Leaders on the Move honored Justice Rosado for her outstanding achievements and continuous contributions to the success of the youth. The Justice is a member of the Gender Fairness Committee for the 12th Judicial District, the New York State Bench Book Committee, and the New York State Judicial Committee in Women in the Courts. She is also the first department vice president of the National Association of Women Judges New York chapter. Justice Rosado has served as a board member of the Association of Family Conciliation Courts, the Bronx County Women's Bar Association, and the Latino Judges Association. Her success and contributions have been recognized by numerous individuals, institutions, and organizations. She is a lifelong public servant and continues to serve her community by speaking to local schools and civic groups regarding the rule of law, gender, justice, and other social justice issues. I hope you are all excited as I am to hear from Justice Llinét M. Rosado. Jodie Rourie holds a PhD from the University of Buffalo, SUNY, and a Juris Doctorate from the Western New England University School of Law. She has been an associate professor in the Latin American and Latinx Studies Department at John Jay College since 2000. Her curriculum is focused on domestic violence and gender rights, criminal justice, international human rights, international criminal justice, race, class, and ethnicity in the United States and Latinx studies. Dr. Rourie conducts research on human rights, including violence against women, and focuses her research on violence against women and girls in Brazil, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba, and the United States. Dr. Rourie is the founder and director of the national award-winning CUNY BMI Rising Scholars of Justice Pipeline Program. Committed to diversifying the legal profession, Dr. Rourie works with numerous law schools across the country to create diversity pipeline programs with the goal of diversifying the legal profession. For over 20 years, she has assisted in securing the admissions of hundreds of low-income and underrepresented students into law school with millions in combined scholarship awards. We are so grateful to have Dr. Rourie here today to facilitate this powerful conversation during Hispanic Latinx Heritage Month. I thank the Office of External Affairs for arranging this program and encouraging student participation. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Llinét Rosado, a judge of the New York State Supreme Court Appellate Division in the First Department, who will offer some opening remarks and then we'll sit for a Q&A. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I don't know if I'm supposed to say something, but I will. It is my honor to be here today. One of the most amazing things that I love about being a judge is coming back to speak to students. But more importantly, I will always support my sister in arms, Professor Jodie Rourie, who has had a tremendous impact on the pipeline, feeding students of color into the law schools, and I will never say no to her. I rearranged everything to be here today, and so I want to thank everyone that took a part in making this happen. Jennifer, who put all this together, and all the other women that played a role in today. Thank you for having me here today. It is an honor.
Thank you so much, Judge. And the honor is really ours. And I know I want to share that one of my favorite people, and one of the most inspiring people that I have ever met in my life is you. And so it's a great honor and a privilege that we gather here today to kick off Latinx Heritage Month, a celebration of our rich and diverse tapestry of cultures and traditions and contributions from people in the Latinx community. And even though this month commemorates and holds a special place in our hearts, you hold a special place in mine. And it allows us to come together as one today. We are honoring today our shared history. We're celebrating our vibrant heritage, acknowledging the countless achievements of Latinx individuals who have left a remarkable mark on our world. And what better way today than to start that celebration and reflection than with the esteemed presence of the Honorable Llinét Rosado. You have a remarkable career. It's been dedicated to public service. You embody the resilience, determination, and unwavering commitment that we have defined Latinx leaders throughout our history. You epitomize Latitana, and your dedication to fostering inclusivity and advocating for social justice and championing the rights of underrepresented communities has not only inspired us, but has also illuminated the path for future generations. And I want to thank you from deep in within my heart for your relentless dedication and support of John Jay College and the Rising Scholars of Justice program, because without you as a partner, we would not be able to continue to diversify the legal profession. And more importantly, just graduate those students, ensure that they pass the bar and that they dedicate themselves to a life of service, just as you have shown us through your example. So as we stand on the cusp of this month filled with cultural festivities, I want to say we should celebrate this day every day. And our educational endeavors and our heartfelt stories remind us that Latinx Heritage Month is not just about the past, but it's about the present and the future. And it's about recognizing the strength of our unity, the beauty of our diversity, and the limitless potential within our communities. And so I want to turn to you. I want to share with our students this amazing woman, this amazing Latina, this amazing human being, this amazing leader. And I want to start with a question about what inspires you and what inspired you, and maybe a little bit about your amazing background that relates so much to every single one of the students at John Jay College to pursue a career in law and eventually become a judge.
I thought about this question, and I want you to know that we have to go back a little bit. Mom raised my sisters and I on three principles, right? Family comes first. By serving others, we serve God. And education is the biggest weapon in any girl's toolbox. So, this is how she raised us. So, service was something she always pushed. Then on my mother's side, there are 11 siblings, all who came here except for one. And the one that didn't come remained in Dominican Republic and became an attorney. And she was a female. And I remember being young, 5 or 6, and listening to that aunt, listening to Tia Teresita Brito in the next room amongst all the men. She was in the middle. And she's arguing with them about laws, about the news. And I remember saying, I'm going to be like Thea. I'm going to be in the room where the women are not supposed to be, schooling the men, right? And then as I grew older, I grew up in the Lower East Side, Alphabet City of New York City, in the projects, in the middle of the epidemic of crack, right after the birth of hip hop, where police brutality was still very real. I could see it. It was a hand an arm's length away. And so I saw a lot of things happen. I saw a lot of loss of life of my friends through violence or through jail. And it solidified the deal for me. I was going to law school and I was going to be a defense attorney to defend my community, to defend people charged with crimes that couldn't represent themselves. Now, I wanted to say to all the students here today that it's okay if you don't know what you want. You will figure it out. In my story, I did know what it wanted. And once those three factors connected, then my sole focus was I'm going to law school. And I need you to know that along the way, I was told it wasn't going to happen for me. My fifth grade teacher said, law school, you should be a secretary. But throughout my life, the more I'm told no, the more I want to prove yes.
Yes, and I am with you on that, right? Never take no for an answer, students. Never take no for an answer. The impossible is possible. Just put your mind to it. So could we dig a little bit deeper about these amazing stories that you and we've talked about this, right? And for prolonged periods of time over the years. Could you share maybe a little bit about the personal experiences and challenges and adversities that you faced as a Latina in the legal profession throughout your career, right? Because we know getting in is very difficult, but we also know that staying in is also very difficult.
You know, I gave this a lot of thought. I have so many incidents that have occurred throughout my life, and I really wanted to narrow it down to several that maybe you could relate to. So getting into law school, like Professor Rourie said, is difficult in itself. But when you go into a law school where there are not that many people of color, it can be even more difficult, right? Because you feel isolated, you feel by yourself. I went up to Albany, which is far away from New York City. And so some of the jokes that include Rodriguez and Gonzalez in the law class weren't very funny to me. In addition, I had to work through law school. I couldn't call home for money. And so it was difficult to hear different students not really wrap their head around that, not understanding that I was living off of oodles and noodles for a week in order to make it to the next week. But then you make it, you graduate, you pass the bar, and you think, hey, it's a level playing field now. I got my Juris Doctorate. I got this. That's when the incidents occurred that can really stop you in your tracks and derail you. And I'm going to give you two. As a defense attorney for the Legal Aid Society, I was speaking to my client outside, and he didn't appreciate my Spanish. He wasn't from my background, and he's like, I don't understand your Spanish. I need an interpreter. So I run into the courtroom to seek an interpreter. As I run into the courtroom in a suit, because I want you to know, when I went to law school, I made a decision that I would always be in a suit. Since I took out all those school loans, I wanted to make sure everyone knew that I was in a suit because I was a lawyer. So I was in a suit. I run into the courtroom, and the judge says, oh, the interpreter has arrived. I was walking in there to get an interpreter. So I was so naive that when the judge said that, I said, great, I need the interpreter to speak to my client outside. And then he's like, oh, I apologize. It is only then that I realized that he was calling me the interpreter. Fast forward, same judge, same trial part. I am now representing an Italian person, an Italian man on an assault in the Bronx. I walk into trial part that day. The first two rows are for lawyers. I go to sit in the first row, and the officer says, no, that's for lawyers. Sit in the third row. I don't argue with him, even though I can go 0 to 100. I wanted to see how this was going to play out. I sit in the third row because I'm not scared to sit in the third row. It's my community. I'm sitting with my community. My client walks in. He walks in with a suit and a briefcase. He sits in the front row. They call the case. I go up. I stand in the attorney's place. He stands in the defendant's place. I note my appearance for the record. We go through the case. I was ready for trial. They weren't. The case is adjourned. The judge is like, step up. Why are you sitting in the third row if you're the attorney? Well, Judge, that's a question for the officer that you should ask the officer, because the officer didn't think to ask me if I was an attorney. He simply told me I'm not an attorney. And your officer didn't think to ask my client whether he was an accused. The officer, overhearing me say that to the judge, said, well, you should have told me. That's not my place to do. I was very proud of myself. I was only an attorney 3 years. I didn't escalate myself. I didn't get angry. I didn't flip out. I think my actions had a more pronounced impact on the court, on the judge, and the staff than on me. And so we have to acknowledge these incidents when they occur, but think about how we're going to acknowledge them. I still recall them
Yes.
like they were yesterday.
Yeah, and I have to say, I want to say I'm sorry that these things still happen, but this is such a real moment. And I think the best example of lawyering is what you just shared. That was a lawyer decision, right? That was a lawyer-like decision, and you made the best decision to make your case, the best case, right? And I'm sure that still resonates within that courtroom today. And unfortunately, we're working on that diversity, right? And
Yep.
we're trying to move that needle. And I know that having you as part of our team, we will work and continue to overcome these obstacles so that others don't have to go there. But our presence in the room promotes inclusion, and I thank you for that. And I'm sorry that you had to enjoy that, and I'm sorry that we still have to enjoy that as a community. But I am hopeful that our work together will change that. So, Judge, I'm going to read something just because I have to say it for the record, right? Llinét Beltre Rosado was appointed by New York State Governor Hochul to serve in the Appellate Division of the New York Supreme Court in July 2023. Listen to me. This is the words that make me every single day more and more motivated and inspired to do what we do. And I just want to say this is the proudest moment for me. So could you talk to the students a little bit, because I want them to understand, how does the role of a judge in the Supreme Court differ from that of the judges in other state courts? And what types of cases do you hear? Just for those of us that don't have an understanding of how the judicial system works.
So the Supreme Court, where I was prior to being appointed by the governor, and I just want to say that I am the first woman of Dominican descent to be appointed to this court, and it is overwhelming. Still gives me goosebumps.
And I was getting to that, Judge. I was getting to that. That was my next question. But
sorry, I
beat me
ruined
to
it
it.
for
No,
you.
no,
I'm
it's
so
okay.
sorry.
It's okay. That's
So-
right.
Prior to being appointed to the Appellate Division, I was elected to Supreme Court, which is not the highest court in the state, but is the highest court in each county. So every county has a Supreme Court: Brooklyn Supreme Court, Bronx Supreme Court, New York County Supreme Court. It is the trial court of general jurisdiction in the New York State system, and is vested with unlimited civil and criminal jurisdiction. Now, that means you can hear anything and everything that a limited court cannot. So a criminal court is a court of limited jurisdiction. It can only hear criminal cases. A family court is a court of limited jurisdiction. It could only hear family court cases. Supreme Court can hear everything. And that's the beauty of, I believe, civil supreme. When I was sitting there, I can do a medical malpractice trial, a personal injury trial. I can do a hospital hearing trial. Should I order medication over the objection of the patient? I can do what's called an RPAPL 881 hearing, which means if I want to do construction on my house, but I need to go into my neighbor's house in order to reach the construction, I have to have a hearing where I will have to possibly order insurance that be paid in case the neighbor's house gets hurt in the repair of the plaintiff's home. And so it's so delicious when you think about the law and how you can cross fields. Supreme Court is amazing. Now, appellate court, where I was appointed by the governor, is also the highest intermediate appellate court. And the first department has the beauty of being the court that all other states look at, because New York County is the financial center of the world. And so those cases come to us. And now I've gone from being a trial judge, the queen of my court, rendering decisions that may be reviewed by an appellate court, to now being on this appellate court with 4 other colleagues reviewing other judges' decisions, whether criminal, civil, commercial. And this next week will be the 5th week that I sit, and I can't be prouder of the court that I'm on. And the presiding justice of the court, Diane Renwick, has become the first woman of color to obtain that title. And so for me to begin my career under her leadership just gives me goosebumps. Being appointed by the first woman governor of New York State. We're still doing first in 2023.
Right. And a sad moment, but what an amazing moment. So let's talk a little bit about that feeling, the first Dominican woman to be appointed in your position, the trailblazer, right? I just came back from the Dominican Republic, and it's all about the Honorable Rosado and what she is doing for La Patria in New York City, right? The home base of the largest representation of Dominicans and Latinos in general. We're all sisters in this. Tell me a little bit about that feeling, right? That first time you're presiding in this capacity.
First of all, receiving that phone call just blows you away. And then calling your mom. And in my case, my mom is my dad. She played both roles once she divorced my father, and calling her to let her know that her daughter was now ascending to an appellate bench and the premier appellate court for a woman that worked in a factory to make sure that her daughters were able to succeed, who told us that we had a duty to succeed and to bring up and pull up as we did. I still get emotional over it, Jodie. It's still a place where I am blown away. And then on my first sitting, I had the honor to sit with 2 of the judges that I worked for, and that being Sally Mansonet Daniel, who was the presiding judge of the panel, and Manny Manuel Mendez, who was the first judge I worked for, who's from Dominican Republic, who went to law school in Dominican Republic, came here and became a judge. And so I am the first, but I stand on so many shoulders. In the Bronx, the first civil court judge of Dominican descent was Julia Rodriguez, and she became the first judge of Supreme Court elected of Dominican descent. And I just assumed that she would get to the Appellate Division before me, and I stand on her shoulders. And now that I'm there, I'm going to keep that door open with my heels, with my red bottoms, to make sure that I'm not the last. And so it's sad in a sense that in 2023, we still have firsts, but it's beautiful in the sense that we continue to strive and fight for it, Jodie, so that maybe my granddaughter or your granddaughter or Jamile's granddaughter will be on the U.S. Supreme Court. And this is what we do it for.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And so I want to talk about the red heel, daughter of Santiago de los Caballeros, Dominican Republic, who comes to the United States and lives in the Rees houses, right? And I want to understand from a diversity inclusion perspective, how do you see your voice adding, right, to the discourse of the profession within and providing critical insight, right, into the cases that go before you? What is it that you add to the court?
So I'm this Dominican kid that immigrates to the United States and moves into a predominantly African American Puerto Rican neighborhood, and then goes to a college of predominantly white people. And so my experiences as an immigrant, a Dominican, being raised by a single divorced mom in the projects, with hip hop, with merengue, with salsa, with bachata, understanding what it's like to be on public assistance, right? Because mom had 4 daughters. She needed some help, even though she went to work every day in the factory. Understanding that that wasn't going to be our life, because she would say to us, public assistance is to help you get on your feet And none of you are going to need that, because education is the biggest weapon in your toolbox. And so for me, diversity is a must. It's not if whether we should or we shouldn't. In order for the community to have faith in our system, in our court system, they have to see the people that look like them when they walk into the court. And that's for everyone. That's not just for Latinos. That's for African Americans, Italians, Irish. Like I was telling Jamile, in the Bronx, we still don't have our first Mexican judge, whether a man or a woman. And I'm hoping it's going to be Jamile,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
until we have all people represented, there's not going to be faith in the system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The system should reflect the people upon the judgment where the judgment is rendered, right?
Yep.
Can't agree with you more. So, you stand mentored by Titans, right? And so we have, another beloved, one of my favorite people in the world, Justice Sally Manzanet Daniels. Wow, what a force of nature, right? What a brilliant mind. What an amazing opportunity to be mentored. So I want to talk a little bit about that mentoring. You've given so much to the Rising Scholars of Justice program at John Jay College. You've played an integral part in the forming of our students that become lawyers, that are lawyers now. And we sit with them till this day, right, to talk about their aspirations to be that next judge that's not represented. So, could you talk a little bit about your work with youth and your work in particular in terms of the defense of children and how that correlates, right, to your desire to develop young people? Because from the beginning, you're supposed to be somewhere in a minute. And you're saying it's about our students. This is what I'm here for. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Growing up, I didn't have a Jodie Rourie. I didn't have this amazing, selfless woman that put herself through law school, and instead of going to practice and make money, said, my mission is to diversify the profession and do this pipeline. So I didn't have you, Jodie.
Thank
right?
you, Judge. Thank you.
So my first lawyer I met in law school. And my first judge I met as a lawyer. So our John Jay kids are way ahead of the game. When Jamile tells me, Judge, I wanted to learn about personal injury, and she knows personal injury as a 1L. And I didn't even know personal injury until I decided to leave criminal law, right? I didn't even understand what a court attorney was. We're doing it right. We're getting it right. And so working as an attorney for children really gives you magic. I can't explain it. I cannot explain it. But it gives you this language that only you and the kids can see. And it really was that part of my life as an attorney for children that made me decide, why am I just looking at high school and college kids? I need to go into kindergarten. I need to go into kindergarten and let them know that I'm a judge, explain to them what is a judge, so that now the Latina that's a kindergarten has met a judge before I met a judge, right? And it was working as an attorney for children that I realized how resilient children are. Their world could be falling apart. Mom and dad are divorcing. He doesn't see mom, he doesn't see dad, and they're just so hopeful of the future, which gives me hope that I can mentor children that may not have a good home, and that I could be the catalyst. I could be the lifeline to allow them to believe in themselves, to propel them into the White House. Because if I can go to the Appellate Division, any kid can go to the White House, right? And so mentoring is everything, Jodie. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I am going to say to your students, you don't have to just be chosen by the mentor. You can say to the mentor, Judge Rosado, I need you to be my mentor, right? I have so many. It's not just Sally Mansonet Daniel, who is in a field by herself. The
Yes.
first of so many things.
Yes.
Not just breaking doors, demolishing doors.
Yes.
And taking hits for us.
Yes.
Taking hits not just for her, but for other Latinas, and saying,
Yes.
I'm going to take the hit as I hold this door open for Judge Rosado to get here. And she was one of the people on me, like, you need to get up here. My job is not done till you get here. And so mentoring is so important, whether it's just read Dr. Seuss on Dr. Seuss Day, right? Do a career day. And it's never too young for anyone to start mentoring. College students could start mentoring high school students. Hey, you want to see what college looks like? Come with me for a day. And that's how it works. I don't know if I answered your question, Jodie. I'm a judge and a mom, and I can talk for hours.
Yes, and we can listen for days, months, years, because there would never be enough of that knowledge that wouldn't, help serve the betterment of us. Judge, I want to talk to you about some of the initiatives. You talked a little bit about, right, the reading programs. And, it's not often that people get to meet judges. It's not often that we meet judges like yourself, right? Could you talk to us about some of those initiatives of giving back and the programs that you've been involved in? Just to improve justice in our communities?
So I, on my own, wanted to implement certain things at the school close to me. It's called St. Angela Merici. And the high school on the Grand Concourse, All Hallows. Both my sons went to that school. I figure I can adopt these schools, be a parent to the children, and still impact the schools. Both the kids left, and I still remain there. So I've done mock trial competitions and have gotten them to the championship twice. I have done mock trial competitions at All Hallows, and they've created an award in my name, which is just mind blowing, right? And then through the Bronx Women's Bar, I've been able to infiltrate the big league school, which is an all girls school from kindergarten to eighth grade. But my reach has really extended further once the chief judge, then Janet DeFury, appointed me to the Franklin H. Williams Commission, which is a separate commission of the courts. We honored you for your
Yes.
pipeline
Thank you.
experience. And that commission has really, under the leadership of the chairs, Troy Weber and Richard Rivera, we have been pushing forward, to impact diversity. We've been doing how to diversify the bench, and we've been going to Buffalo, to Albany, to tell these students this is how you can become a court of claims judge. This is how you can become an appointed judge. This is how you can become an elected judge. We have also incorporated students into our programs, bringing them into us, teaching them about Franklin H. Williams, who he was, what his impact was. And on my own, now that I am in a better place in terms of money, because public service is not always good money, but I'm going to tell the students, follow your heart, the money will follow. I am now in a great place. I follow my heart. There were some times it was a little bit hungry, but we pushed through it. And if you follow your heart, it will get you there. And so I truly believe that the only way for us as Latinos to move up, Jodie, is to lift.
Mhm.
I don't know any other way to say it.
Yeah, and you live that lifting. You live that heavy lift. There's not a time it doesn't matter what time it is in the day or night, right? I can send you a 2 a.m. text or a 7 a.m. text, a 2 p.m. text, and you will respond right away. And doing 50 million things, right? On it. Thank you for that honor. Thank you for acknowledging our work. Again, our work depends on people like yourselves. And so I want to also, before we go on to the next question, maybe talk a little bit about your role in gender in the Judicial Committee on Women in the Courts, right? Could you maybe, I think one of the things that made me aspire to this JD PhD, or this, now I'm trying to get the students to aspire to becoming the next judge, is hearing somebody like yourself talk about that role and visualizing somebody that looks like me doing that. Could we talk a little bit about that presence in terms of gender and women and advocacy, coming from such a matriarchal home, right? I guess the best leader you've ever met, and the first leader you ever met was your mom, right? And how you carry that legacy for her, because she couldn't do this work that you do in the judiciary for women.
Well, you hit it on the nose. I mean, if a nail needed to be nailed in my home, it was my mom that nailed the nail, right? If we had to fix something, it was a woman that did it in my home. And so I come from a long line of what I like to say warrior women, right? And as Latinas, we add a little flavor to that warrior women. And, that's not always accepted. If a man is assertive, if an attorney is assertive and he's making his argument, he's brilliant, right? Look at him. He's assertive. He's using his hands. He's an assertive, well-informed attorney. If a woman does the same thing, well, why is she being so aggressive? Why is she
Absolutely.
speaking down to men? And so it is a constant struggle. And I'm just coming behind the scenes. We have Betty Ellerin, the first woman ever to make it to the Appellate Division. She's 95 and a partner at a law firm, still working, still pushing for women's rights in the courts. She is the chair of the Women in the Courts Committee. And so I mean, I can tell you so many women that I've heard that I stand on their shoulders, that I've heard, well, she's a little aggressive, she's a little tough. But no one says it better than RBG. Well-behaved women seldomly make history, right? We're going to
Absolutely.
continue to push. We're going to be in those places you say that we don't belong. And we're going to be who we are. And we're going to demand that respect. And I can only speak as to the Dominican community right now. We have 23 judges of Dominican descent. 3 are men. Did you hear me?
Yes.
3 are men. 20 are women. There's no stopping it.
That's
It
right.
needs to be embraced.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can't emphasize enough to the students that if you have a takeaway out of all of the takeaways, men, women, and other persons, we all need to be inclusive and understand the importance of what Justice Rosado just finished sharing. We don't have a lot of time, and I know you have a commitment, but there's a couple questions left, and there's some Q&A. So I want to move over to a question. If maybe you could share with us a particular memorable or impactful case that you have presided over in your career. And the best way to communicate with students, in my opinion, is storytelling, right? And I think you're an amazing storyteller. So I'd like to hear your story about the case that really has impacted you, or where you have made the most impact.
So first, I want you to know that I can only speak about cases that are over, that have ended,
Yes.
because I'm in the appellate court. And so I think that the court that most has impacted me has been family court. And one particular case was so important to me for so many reasons. So it was 6 siblings, 5 sisters, and a brother, ranging from 8 to 15. They were very religious, girls that were seeking their education, and they lived with mom. In order to keep the home hot, mom turned on the oven and opened the door of the oven, and mom died of carbon monoxide. The siblings, all children, were able to make it. The pastor, who has known the children most of their life, moves for custody. So does their father, who they have no relationship with. I represent the 6 kids. And so, for those of you that don't know this, when it's a parent versus a non-parent, you must first prove extraordinary circumstances to then go into the best interest of the child analysis. The judge wanted the older children to testify, and I felt a connection to these girls because I come from 4 girls in my house, and it was 5 of them. They were African American, very religious. We're Catholic. Mom raised us in the church, right? And so I felt very connected, and I went all out for this trial, right? And we won. The 3 kids came and testified, and then the younger kids we did it in camera with, and we won the trial. And I was an attorney for the child at that time. I wasn't a judge yet. But when I became a judge, they came to my induction, these 5 kids, and just solidified. She followed me. They followed my career, and she came to my induction. And then fast forward to that same family court. the most impactful case to this day that was an adoption, that I was able to preside over an adoption that allowed a child that could have been in foster care forever, that I've created that relationship, and that they wanted a picture with me after it was done. I still have that picture in Chambers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a far way to come from humble beginnings, right? To be able to have such an amazing impact, and I really want the students to understand, the impact that judges have, the profound impact that judges have, but how important the cultural sensitivity and the ability to speak another language is in cases like the ones that you've shared with us today. And I really think that diverse perspective enriches us at the court, it enriches our society, and you enrich the lives of the people you preside over. So, thank you for sharing those stories. I'm going to turn to the Q&A in a minute, but before I do that, I wanted to ask you if you can maybe share some advice that you have for individuals who are considering a career in law and aspiring to become judges. And I want to emphasize your intersectionality.
Here's what I want you to know. The only person that can stop you from being whatever you want to be is the person that you see when you look in the mirror. That is a fact. That is not made up. That is a fact. You're the only person that can stop you from being who you want to be. With that said, understand that in your journey, you may fail. And whoever tells you that they succeed without failing is lying to you. Because in order to succeed, you're going to fail. And so there's going to be times you're going to fail an exam. You are not going to get the grade you want. You're going to fall off the bike. You're going to get up, you're going to dust your pants off, and you're going to get back on the bike. Nelson Mandela has a great quote, and I love it. He said once, I never lose. I either win or I learn. I'm going to say that again to you. I never lose. I either win or I learn. You're going to fall off the bike sometimes. Forgive yourself. Get back on and keep pedaling. If you want to be a lawyer, you will be a lawyer. If you want to be a judge, you will be a judge. You can't listen to the haters. You got to turn the volume off in your ear and you got to keep pushing because the only person that can stop you is you. I will now hear the question, Jennifer.
That was really great advice, Judge. Thank you. So we have a question from Saida, and she says, when things become difficult, what kept you going? What advice do you have for us students who are willing to persevere for their goals?
I want you to know that things still get tough for me, right? Before I became on the Appellate Division, I was in the integrated domestic violence part where I'm dealing with domestic violence and children. And there were many difficult cases. And so throughout my life, I've learned different things. So I want you to know that during law school, I would play basketball. I was a basketball player in high school. And whenever I was anxious or stressed out or didn't think that I could make it through law school, I would play some basketball, sometimes at 3 a.m. Secondly, I grew up on hip hop. I don't know if I said that to you. And many times when I didn't believe that I belonged or I didn't fit or I should just pack up and leave, I would play Tupac or I would hear his poem, A Rose Grows in the Concrete. How can a rose grow in the concrete? Hip hop played a part in making this, Judge. As I got older, if the cases became overwhelming or if any issues or anything in my profession became overwhelming, I did the rosary. Sometimes I did the rosary one time. Sometimes I did the rosary 45 times. And finally, all of us have a little negativity in us. My sister Lychee, who is my number three sister, meaning I'm second, she's third, once gave me the best gift ever, and it was the book, The Secret. And what it taught me was that in order to push back on the negativity, I had to learn to train myself into positivity. And so whenever I find myself derailing into the negative world, I will do something to make myself positive. And doing the rosary was one of those things. And again, as you grow, you find different methods. My method right now is yoga and meditation, to let me know, to put me in a space that lets me know you can go, you can push, you can keep seeking whatever goals it is that you're seeking. I hope I've answered your question.
Okay, I got disconnected, so I apologize for that, Judge. You know,
I
technology
left
is
with you.
awesome
I
when it
left with
works.
you. Once I saw
Okay.
you stuck, I left and came back. So
Okay. We're good. I don't feel so bad. So I apologize for having missed your
I
words of
answered your
wisdom.
question, and I
Okay.
answered another question.
Great. So we do have some questions in the Q&A. And Jennifer, if you could help me, because I came in later, so I can't see the earlier questions. But I'm going to go, if you could paste them to me or maybe send it to me in my chat, that'd be great. But I have a message from Brenda who says, "Greetings, Judge. As a woman in the judge world, have you experienced the discrimination for being a woman in a male-dominated field? And if so, how did you overcome the condescending behavior?" Which I think we talked a little bit about, right, when you were doing this as an attorney.
You know, it's going to continue to happen, right? What I've noticed is that sometimes attorneys will speak to me differently than they will speak to my male counterparts. Now, you can handle that in two ways. You can be the boss lady in your part and say, "I'm the boss. How dare you disrespect me? Sit down. I'm going to call your case last." Or you can do it in a way where you're still professional, respectful, and you still let people know who's the boss in town, right? And so if a lawyer is going to be disrespectful to my staff or to me, I simply say to the lawyer counsel, if you want respect, you must give respect. I was a litigator. I understand your life. I know you have to be at 5, 7 different places. All I want is a phone call. If you want respect, you must give respect. I have learned that that type of behavior goes across better than other behaviors. Every judge is different. Here's an example I want to give you. When a judge walks into a courtroom, lawyers are supposed to stand. Is respect. It's what I love about our profession, the formality. When I first went to Civil Supreme and was dealing with the money cases, the lawyers weren't standing for me. So I decided a different approach. The next day, I told my officer, I'm not coming downstairs until they stand for me. Now everyone knows that Judge Rosado's on the bench at 9:30. I was a litigator. I want those lawyers to know I'm here. You can come in front of me and get out and be done with your day. By 10:15, the lawyers were anxious. By 10:30, they asked my officer, "Where's the judge? Why isn't she here?" And my officer said, "The judge is not coming down until you afford her the same respect that you afford all the judges in this court, and you stand when she comes." They said, "We're going to stand.
Okay.
Tell the judge. Tell the judge." I come down. My officer walks in with me. They stand. I walked in and out of my courtroom 14 times. They stood up and sat down 14 times. I did it without yelling, without screaming. I proved my point to all those older male counterpart attorneys of who controls my courtroom. And so, as women and all my female students out there, you're going to continue to face it. You have to determine how to address it, but you cannot be silent on it. You must address it. Because if you're silent on it, you're giving the message that it's okay for people to treat you different because you're a woman. And that is unacceptable.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And again, another skilled lawyerly decision on how to make a point, right? And so I really, really need the students to take that away about how can we communicate. Sometimes we don't need our words to communicate, right? And so sometimes we do need our words and we have to choose our words. So should we say it? Should we say it now? And should I say it? Right? So those are
And
one of my
also, Jodie,
mentees.
they know, don't let people trigger you. They're expecting to get a rise.
That's right.
Especially if you're a Gonzalez, a Ruiz. Let's hit those hot buttons. Don't let anyone control how you react to something.
That's
Even
right.
if it takes you a moment, Even if it takes you 5 seconds, give me a moment on this, and then come back.
That's right. Excellent, excellent advice as always. And this is why we are so fortunate to have you as our mentor, one of our judicial internship positions, because there's very much to learn. So we have a bunch of questions actually.
Okay.
And so maybe I can go through them, and because of the time, where we have 6
Okay.
minutes left. So maybe I kind of try to sum them up as best as I can, and then we can answer them collectively. So I'll say some of them. As a Hispanic leader, what strategies do you believe are essential for integrating new Hispanic employees into the public sector and mentoring them for success, taking into account the unique challenges they may face? Hello, I would also one day like to practice in family court. And could you talk a little bit about your experience on how it was for you, and how long it took you to get there? What are ways to get there? And given your lack of experience prior, from the beginning of your career till now, what would you say to other first generation students that also face socioeconomic struggles that may discourage them from pushing forward? Because judging, big part is unpaid internships, right? We try to work on that as best as we can in academia, but it is a challenge nationally. And then, so I think those are some of the, summary of some of the questions. Maybe you want to take give us some of your knowledge on that. That'd be great.
I've realized that in every field, people go through a process and then just keep moving, not understanding that someone else is coming behind them in the process. So when I became a judge, I had to figure out how to rent the rotunda where my induction was going to be, how to appear before the different bars, how to fundraise, right? So I kept a book so that when the next Latino, Latina judge was doing it, I could say, hey, look, follow this strategy. I believe in that in every aspect. Even if you're the only Latino at your job 2 years, you've been there 2 years. You can help that next Latino when they come. I also believe in joining different organizations. And I know that in college, it can be a little bit much with your time, but it really opens up doors, right? And I was that kid. I was that first generation kid that didn't have money for that unpaid internship. There's money out there. I know that through NYU, I applied for the Charles Revson stipend. It was a 3,000 stipend. I applied for it, and then I worked for an internship that couldn't pay me, but the stipend covered that. I didn't have internet back then. You guys do. That is a resource. I actually went into career development and took out books to see what scholarships I could apply for. There is money out there. There is money out there. I also waitressed on the side, right? Because I could waitress on Saturday at night, Sunday at night, so that I can do that internship. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. You heard me say earlier, I lived off of oodles and noodles. I am your girl. I can make oodles and noodles in so many different ways. But the beauty of coming from not much, the beauty from coming from humble beginnings is that you're not going to jump out the window if you lose everything. We're resourceful. We figure it out. Like I like to tell people, I still have a place in mommy's sofa in her apartment. I'm not scared not to have anything, And so you find ways to make it work.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And I'm going to share a story, just to understand that, I'm not a judge. I am a professor, and I share all of these experiences that you have shared with us today. I say that because you talked about one of my favorite Supreme Court justices, right, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I learned through that opportunity, being low income, being the first in my family to go to college, to go to law school, to get a PhD, to become a professor, to be anything, I had to sacrifice, and being hungry was part of that, right? And I remember when I was offered that first Supreme Court internship, right, being able to work at the Supreme Court, it was not a question. I had to figure out how to do it. And loans in our community, it was a big taboo, right? And I said, look, I can either take out this loan and move to DC and work like you did and live on, right, whatever it was, ramen, noodle, whatever it was, 33 cents spaghetti. That was my big go-to, right? Because they had carbs. But working at the Supreme Court would set me up for life, just like the internships for you would set you up for life. And being the first Latina, right, to do these things would not only affect, me, but my family as well, right? And it allowed me to give back to my community, just like it has to you. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Hunger is not what we're promoting or advocating for,
No,
but
absolutely
it
not.
is the sacrifice. To understand that, yes, I had to work 3 jobs while I was in school to provide for my family, to be able to provide for my siblings to go to school, to be able to provide so that one day I could pay my mom's rent, right? Isn't that the best feeling, right? To be able to pay your
Amen,
mom's
Jodie.
rent, right?
Amen.
So look, you epitomize what it is to be resilient. You epitomize what it is to be brilliant, what it is to be a visionary, what it is to be a trailblazer. And so I want to thank you so much for your words of wisdom, for your presence, for your unyielding support of our students at John Jay College, for your support of me, for your mentorship of me, right? For your mentorship of me, because mentors are all different. Like you said, all different sizes and shapes and positions. And, I'm a better person because you're in it. And we're all better because you're in our lives at John Jay College.
You're my
So I
sister
want
for life,
to,
Jodie. You're my
yes,
sister
forever, forever. And I love you to death I love you to life, right? I love you to life. So, we honor you. We are honoring our past, but we're celebrating our future, and our future is bright with you in it. You are a reminder that our diversity is our strength in our community. Your story is our story. You are our treasure. Your journey is my journey, is our shared journey. And I hope that this talk today serves as an inspiration for generations of John Jay students and everybody that's on this call that has the privilege to compart in this and listen to you and follow those words of wisdom and live through your experiences and know that everything that you have gone through is so that we can have a better world. And so as I come from the Dominican Republic, right, and I say La Patria, we salute you. We
La
salute
patria.
you.
Que viva la patria.
Que viva la patria. And we celebrate you every day. And I thank you so much for all you do for us and our students. In my Guayabera, right? From the Dominican Republic, I shared this and I wore this
My
for
Boricua
you.
hermana, my Boricua
Right.
hermana. Mwah.
And so
It's
I
my
love you.
honor. It's my honor to have you in my life. You have single-handedly, I don't care what you tell me, created this pipeline of these amazing attorneys. And it's my honor to be here with all my John Jay students. I know your life is not easy. I don't even know if I could have lived in this life of social media, shootings in the schools, and you're still pushing forward. Jodie, I will always support you. I think you're a queen. I'm a better person for knowing you. And I look forward to seeing all these students in my courtroom arguing their cases.
Thank you so much, Judge. And I want to celebrate Yamile too, because she will be the next under your tutelage to
Yamile
be.
already knows she's
Yes.
going to be the first Mexican judge of Bronx County. She knows
That's
that.
right.
I'm putting that into the world.
That's it. It's in the universe, Yamile. We are here to support you, and John Jay will be on the map, right? Through you, through our judge, and through all of our alumni. So I want to thank you for your time. I know you have to run. Love you so much, and I look forward to the next time that we are going to be able to celebrate you at John Jay College.
Thank you all, and Jamile, we'll be seeing each other. All right? Thank you all. Good night.